peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
It is ridiculous and it is against the laws of nature that we can have somebody sitting pretty who takes home more money than the credible entrepreneur who is doing actual production of goods and services.
We always say it as it is. It is only in this country that when a thief is arrested, you hear elders from their tribe saying, he is our son and he is our thief.
If you are deviant and I call you leader, probably you are already a leader, but you are leading in the wrong direction.
We want to see the role of the youth in the security, governance, and development.
The youth that I meet and work with here, you know, we call them the millennials and X's and Y's, this and that. They don't necessarily want to live like their fathers and grandfathers, do business like their fathers and grandfathers. They're more independent, they're better educated, and they're the ones that are making everything move in this region.
We look at the issues, we talk about issues that impact people's lives in Africa. The African peoples themselves continue to cheer bad leaders, and because they cheer them on, they continue to be misled.
Let me ask you, doctor, would you rather be somebody who does not enjoy so much freedom but you are rich? Or you'd rather be poor who you are actually imprisoned by the poverty itself?
My goal is not to come here and say, I want the majority ownership, I want to own this, I want to own that, I want to do this. My goal is we all make money and we're all happy, and I help build a big business here.
Punchline is for Africa, with Africa, from Africa.
Way back in 1998, the late Secretary General of the United Nations, by name Kofi Annan, thought of an idea, brought an idea of saying the only way to bring world order where crimes committed that are not punishable in local courts, local countries, regional courts could be taken to an international crimes court. The Rome Statute and Rome Treaty of 1998 July was an offspring of already cooked DSGE intelligence system mechanism to keep Africa under check. Up to date, the French government pays 70% of the salaries of the International Criminal Court, from the porter to the judge, to the prosecutor, and the rest of the other people. This was a project of Kofi Annan and the Kofi Annan Foundation, followed by George Soros as an accomplice of Kofi Annan, brought in by Luis Moreno Campo and the entire system of the West, some countries in the West, to keep check on African countries that did not agree with the policies of the French and to their policies of Western culture. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Campo agreed in all this that yes, he has been picking money, extra monies, and we followed the story together with my group in France, powerful investigators in France who worked together with me, and we found out that, truly speaking, Luis Moreno Campo, Fernandez Gumedi, the former judge, the president of the International Criminal Court, laundered money, some coming from American banks themselves. This evidence was put in the ICC. in the case of Bashir versus the chief prosecutor, I filed an application which I still have and which I'm going to publicize again so that people can know that I was right. I've been vindicated because the American friends now have found that my credibility is real, that I was right when I stood up to say this court is corrupt. This court laundered us money, $17 million of United States money, laundered through Bahamas, through New York banks, back to Ocampo's personal assistant by then, called Fernandez Gomedi Silvia, who later on rose to the ranks of becoming the president of International Criminal Court. It has taken us time, energy, efforts, resources to investigate the corruption scandal that have rocked the International Criminal Court.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us at this day. I can see a lot of you already on our platform, and you've started engaging with us and writing to us and commenting on our Facebook platforms and other social media platforms that we are currently live on. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are also live on South and Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation. So in case you're having a Zuku decoder in Kenya, just scroll down and you'll find the SCBC channel there, and you can watch us straight from your television. My name is Miriam Ogotu, and this is Good Morning Africa, and we're coming to you all the way from Kenya's capital in Nairobi. It is bright and a bit chilly this morning here in the capital, but a lot of news happening. There's been some striking doctors and nurses in Kirugoya County. I think it's continuing over poor health conditions over there, and apparently the working conditions there for the medical staff is not very favorable, and so they are holding their strikes today. I keep saying these are health should not have been devolved. I think that was a very big mistake for health to have been devolved to the county governments. But you know what? That is something that can always be taken back to referendum and gotten back to the national government for the better good of this country. Of course, the Kenyan newspaper headlines today, you look at the Daily Nation. Of course, you look at it much later when Dr. Matanga joins me on the other part of the show. The Daily Nation carries a very alarming and worrying headline. It's war at Kenya Revenue Authority, and Nairobi's Times Tower has become home to what is perhaps the biggest battle for survival inside a public institution in recent years, as employees stung by anti-graft investigation gang up against their seniors, and the management holds the issuing of tax compliance certificates and filing of tax returns over system abuse as the board scrambles to replace Njira. This imposing tower faces an implosion from within. Remember, Kenyans are now filing the taxes. We should do that by the end of June. So right now it should be a very busy time at the Times Tower. But, the recent arrest of some employees at the KRA involved in mega scandals that happened inside there has really elicited and brought out a lot of things that has been happening there. And also there have been succession politics there. Mr. John Giraini, who is at the helm of the KRA right now, is meant to be retiring. Of course, he was added another year, but he's meant to be retiring. His term is over. And there's also that succession war, and there have been candidates who have been shortlisted elected for a Commissioner General's job. So that is, we will be looking at that much later. But right now, I would like us to just go straight to what is making headlines this morning across Africa, and then we can just look at them in depth after that, and then we'll come back to what is making headlines in Kenya. And of course, in the diaspora dispatches, we'll be looking at, is there constructive opposition in Africa, democracy? What do you think is the status of opposition parties in Africa, and do they even understand their role? And do the citizens understand the role of the opposition parties in Kenya and opposition leaders, not in Kenya, but in Africa? Please engage with us. I can see Frank Mwangi watching all the way from Lamu. Thank you so much. And Nibil Amum Okiech, you're saying good morning, and you're watching from Melbourne, Australia. It is a good evening to you, so thank you so much for watching. We're like, 7 hours apart, I believe. All right, so we start with Egypt, where one of Egypt's most wanted jihadists has arrived back in the country after being handed over by the Libyan military strongman Khalifa Haftar. Hisham al-Ashwawi, a former Egyptian Special Forces officer, was detained in Libya late last year. He is wanted in connection with several attacks. This includes a deadly ambush of police in Egypt's western desert 2 years ago, and raid on guards along the border with Libya in 2014. Egyptian courts had sentenced him in his absence to death. Hisham al-Ashwawi was transferred following a visit by Egypt's intelligence chief, General Haftar. And in Nigeria, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is set to be sworn in for a second time in the capital Abuja today. The inauguration comes 3 months after the former army general was re-elected. He defeated his closest rival, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, by nearly 4 million votes. President Buhari's team has said today's ceremony will be a low-key affair. And in Malawi, Malawian opposition leader Lazarus Chakwera has told the BBC that he will continue to challenge the results of the Malawi election in court. He was speaking to BBC Focus on Africa in his first interview since his opponent, Peter Mutharika, was announced the winner of the presidential race. He added that he will not attend Mr. Mutharika's swearing in earlier Tuesday because he had not been invited. He did not attend because he had not been invited. And in the DRC Congo, more than 800,000 people will be vaccinated against cholera in North Kivu in an effort to stop the current epidemic in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. More than 10,000 cholera cases have been reported in the country since January this year, and more than 240 deaths recorded, a World Health Organization has reported. And France's Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian on Tuesday warned West African states against relying on French military presence to tackle Islamist militancy in the region. The Sahel region is suffering from a spike of violence from militant groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, highlighting the difficulty international partners face in restoring regional stability. The northern region of Burkina Faso, bordering Mali and Niger, has been especially hard hit in recent months, while spiraling ethnic conflicts have also added to the instability. And Tanzania's President John Pombe Magufuli has pledged to offer Kiswahili books and teachers to Namibia as part of his efforts to reignite cooperation between the two nations. Magufuli, who is on a rare trip outside Eastern African region, also commissioned a street in the Namibian capital Windhoek named after Tanzania's founding President Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. And the United States has removed Eritrea from the list of countries that are deemed not to be cooperating fully with its counter-terror efforts. The announcement of the diplomatic breakthrough from the Horn of Africa nation is set to be published on the Federal Register today. Iran, North Korea, Syria, and Venezuela are still listed on the list. And in Ethiopia, the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Tuesday pledged not to interfere in the ongoing Sudan political impasse, saying his country will only contribute ideas to the southern neighbor. Abiy was hosting the leader of Sudan's Transitional Military Council, General Abdul Fattah Burhan, who has also met leaders of Egypt and the United Arab Emirates in the past weekend. And in South Sudan, fighting between government forces and fighters of the National Salvation Front, NAS, led by General Thomas Cirillo, has resumed in South Sudan's Yei River State. In a statement seen by the press, NAS spokesperson Suba Samuel said government forces caused unrest in Lanier and Wanduruba on Sunday and in Yei River State on Monday. He alleged that the attack was a plot by Juba to defeat the rebels and force them to surrender and join the revitalized peace deal. And still matters, South Sudan and the National Pre-Transitional Committee has revoked its decision to terminate the accommodation of peace delegates in the hotels less than a day after calling for their removal. In a letter dated 27th May, the NPTC told the hotel management that it could not proceed with the transfer of the delegates to alternative accommodations as earlier communicated. On Saturday, the head of the accommodation committee wrote a letter saying that the NPTC will not be responsible for the accommodation of any member who remains in the hotel from Monday 27th of May. That was 2 days ago. He directed the various hotel managements to stop offering rooms to the delegates, but yesterday the NPTC says it encountered serious challenges in their decision to transit the delegates from the hotels to alternative accommodations. And we go back to Sudan, and hundreds, of course, of passengers at Khartoum Airport and the Sudanese capital's main bus terminal were stranded Tuesday as protesters began a 2-day national strike to pile pressure on the military to hand over power to a civilian administration. Leaders of an umbrella protest movement remain at loggerheads with army generals who seized power after ousting President Omar al-Bashir last month over who should lead a new governing body, a civilian or a soldier. And we go back again to Egypt, where Egyptian security forces have committed widespread abuses against civilians in Restif, North and Sinai Peninsula, some of which amount to war crimes. This is according to Human Rights Watch report that said on Tuesday, urging other nations to halt a military assistance towards Egypt. In a 134-page report titled "If You Are Afraid for Your Lives and Leave Sinai," the group said it documented arbitrary arrest and forced disappearance, torture, extrajudicial killings, forced evictions, and possible unlawful air and ground attacks against civilians. And some news from Biafra. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has said its sit-at-home order to members will serve as a reminder to the overlords in Nigeria that Biafrans are united. In a statement on Monday by its spokesperson, Emma Powerful, the pro-Biafra group advised the Nigerian police force and other security agencies to stay indoors and respect the day. And also some latest news from the southern part of Cameroon, that is the Anglophone region, Ambazonia. And now the Ambazonia leader has set new conditions for dialogue on a 5-page document released from his Kandegeu detention cell in Yaoundé. Siseku Ayuk Atabe presented the conditions, parties, the venue, the delegations, as well as the topics to be deliberated on for a dialogue to hold between both parties. Siseku Ayuk Atabe demands, amongst others, the release of all prisoners arrested in the course of Anglophone crisis, the retreat of Le Public du Cameroon's defense and security forces, and that of administrators and civil servants from the 2 Anglophone regions. So that is just the latest this morning from Africa. I don't know if I could get some other news from our local newspaper just before we get into it. There could be other things happening that I might have left out, and in case there's something else happening out there across Africa or the world, you can share with me this morning, and we can share with the rest of our viewers. I'll just take a look at that later, but let's just go through some of your comments, and then we'll get to the news now. And Mohammed Hassan, you're saying Africa divide Nigeria today or tomorrow? Okay. Ombesh Arthur, watching and listening live from here at home. All right, that's very good. Abraham Cholwang, you're saying you're watching now. Thank you. And Mohammed Hassan, you're saying you're watching from Morocco. Prince Jacobs, you're watching from India. El Khalifa. Okay. El Khalifa times 2. Do you inaugurate someone as president when the opposition is still in court? Good question. I think you're referring to the inauguration that is supposed to be happening today for Nigeria's President Buhari for his second term. Joseph, good morning. And it's Ebube Mwanso watching from Lagos, Nigeria. And Mwataoma, you're saying you're watching from Biafra land. And Frank, you said you're watching from Lamu, Nibil. You said you're watching from Australia, Wanjiru Mwangi. Good morning. Kimani Wathuo. Always a pleasure. You're watching from Naivasha. Nongcho, you're watching all the way from Biafra. And Ezebube Chidi, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So as I was going through this news, so a lot of things are happening today. And of course, Biafra, the leader, the spokesperson, Emma Powerful, he works for Radio Biafra, I believe. And he's a very influential figure around that area. And a lot of times he's been also been harassed by the government because of his very strong sentiments in regards to Biafra and the freedom of Biafra land. And so he gave a statement and he said tomorrow, which is the sit-at-home day that Biafrans have planned to have a sit-at-home day in respect of the people who were killed during the start of Biafra War 52 years ago, and that the government has refused to recognize about 3.5 Igbo were killed during that time. And so this is a day that Biafrans have set aside, and it's called Biafra. Is it a Heroes Day, something like that? Yeah. Please let me write me the right name. I need to say it right. Yes, but something close to that. And so tomorrow is going to happen. And I was just reading that because the spokesperson for Biafra has come out and said that tomorrow he's advising the Nigerian police force and other security agencies to stay indoors and respect the day. But what, the police have come out to say that tomorrow is going to be business as usual, and anybody who tries to cause any form of anything will be meted with a lot of force from the authorities. So whatever you do tomorrow, just make sure you keep safe. But the sit at home and the go slow will happen tomorrow, and that has been organized by the indigenous people of Biafra, that is the IPOB. And also in southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, the leader, that is Isiku Ayuk Tade, just wrote a letter and to, I think, the government in Yaoundé. Of course, he's in a police cell in jail in Yaoundé, and he's saying he's given the conditions to be met for a proper dialogue to take place. He wants, he's presented the conditions, the parties, the venue, and the delegations that he wishes to be part of these peace talks and these dialogues. Remember, Ambazonia, just like Biafrans, are really struggling to get out. Ambazonians don't want to be part of the larger Cameroon, and Biafrans don't want to be part of the larger Nigeria because of some very legitimate reasons. If you listen and read and see really the history of this to our communities, you realize that a lot of their reasons are really legitimate and might warrant that. But of course, the leadership or the government will not agree to that. And in Ambazonia, it has been a stalemate, with Paul Biya even just recently sending his prime minister to southern parts of Cameroon to have conversation with some leaders there trying to reach out. And he said he wants to listen to their problems. He wants to listen to what they have to say, because they want to sort of find a way forward and start dialogues that could facilitate, according to him, just Cameroon being one. Because he said he's willing, President Biya said he's willing to talk about anything else, as long as it does not include matters secession. He's not even acknowledging that there is a problem, that there's a need, that he's not even acknowledging the legitimacy of the cries of the people of Ambazonia. So he said he can talk about anything else, but he cannot talk about secession. And so it's not very clear if the trip by his prime minister to the southern part of Cameroon, the Anglophone region, really was successful, or it was able to accomplish whatever it is President Biya wanted to accomplish by sending his part of his government there to look at and to engage with the people of Ambazonia. So is there anything happening this morning in Ambazonia, in Biafra land? Please talk to me. Send me the latest information from there. What we've heard is the Biafran, spokesperson Emma Powerful has said that they will continue, and they're asking the police force and other security agencies to stay indoors and respect the day and let the Biafrans mark this day the best they know how, by sit at homes, by go slow. And so they're urging the security forces to just let them observe this day how they want to observe it. And of course, there's the authority in Nigeria and in that part of Nigeria has come out to say tomorrow they will be alert and they will be in charge. So anything that might go against the law or anything that might try to interfere with the daily runnings of affairs there, it's going to be met with a lot of force from the police. So just be aware, even as you prepare to go to this sit at home tomorrow. Zachariah Magokyo saying, what is current Ugandan politics right now, my sister? Oh, good morning to you. You just joined. Do I have anything from Uganda this morning? But the last we checked, Bobby Wine, I've been seeing photos making rounds in social media. I think him and Chamisa and some Kenyan leaders, some Kenyan politicians, I don't know, they were in Zimbabwe or they were in, of course not, I don't think they'll go to Uganda because obviously Museveni will not allow to that. So there's a probability they were either in Zimbabwe, I'll check, or even, I don't know, in Kenya, I don't know, because he always visits. He has a lot of following here, young people here in Kenya, Mr. Bobby Wine. But the latest, the joint forces with the long-suffering Kizza Besigye, and so far I think they're still working on how the procedures and how they'll work together and what they will do together. But of course, the latest from Uganda, the row between Uganda and Rwanda still continues, and it's worrying. And this is something that, if not curbed now, if it's not taken care of right now, then it might get out of hand. It might be very difficult even for the rest of the region, and this might put the jeopardy of the East African community unity together. This will just affect everything in this region. Yeah, remember, the East African community has been wanting for a very long time to be a united bloc, but has been met with a lot of challenges. And a few nations in here, individual nations, are not normally, like Tanzania is very skeptical about it. And so there's been challenges. So such a disunity, or such a war, or such a acrimony between what is happening now in Rwanda and Uganda is just adding fuel to this already, very shaky situation in regards to the East African community. And don't forget, Burundi also has its own wars. And just, I think 2 months ago, it had applied to be part of SADC. It wants to join the SADC community. So I don't know if they will leave the East African community, but Pierre Nkurunziza had said now he's ready to join SADC. I don't know how that has gone yet so far for Burundi. But you understand that President Pierre Nkurunziza, after the attempted coup in 2015, the guy does not leave Bujumbura at all. In fact, he wanted to change the capital of the country to another place. I will check the details later. So he's very paranoid. His country right now is in dire need of even financial assistance and help. He asked the United Nations offices to relocate and leave the country for the human rights. He's asked the international media to leave Burundi because he thinks there's nothing they're doing there, the BBC, Voice of America. So, and Nkurunziza has his own problems, but also that has melted down to the acrimony between him and Burundi. And so it's a very dicey situation here in the East African community. And that tells you why really this East African community bloc can never come and work together as one bloc. And notwithstanding the many gains we might make should they decide to come together. And so it's interesting. Samuel Lay, thank you so much for your kind words, and thank you for joining this morning. I appreciate that. Abdullah Al-Saman, you're saying you're watching from Khartoum. That's very good, because I had some update from Khartoum this morning. And the strike is still on. The 48 minutes the strike is still on. This 48-hour strike is still ongoing there, and things have been paralyzed. I hear the airport. Tell me, are the planes taking off at all? Are there planes landing from anywhere in the world? Because the people have downed their tools from the seaport, from everywhere in Sudan, and nobody's really working there. So they've joined in, and of course, this has come from the loggerheads between the protesters' union and the army generals. They're not agreeing. And Ethiopian leader met yesterday with the military council leader, and he said he does not, Mr. Abiy Ahmed, the prime minister for Ethiopia, he said he does not want to interfere with Ethiopia's politics, but he's just there to offer his support. I can trust him on that. The person I don't trust very much is Egyptian President Al-Sisi. I don't trust his intentions for Sudan, but you know, I'm a bit skeptical. And so they met over the weekend, and even the details of the meeting was not made public. Yeah, so, and this led even the civilians and the protesters to really read the riot act towards Al-Sisi and told him to just stay off Sudan's politics. He's not invited into Sudan's politics. He should just leave them and the military council to work things out in Sudan the best way they know how. And of course, the Malawian leader, opposition leader, has said he will still continue to challenge the results of the elections that were held a week ago in Malawi, and he's not agreeing with the court ruling that really ruled to uphold President Peter Mutharika's re-election that happened on Tuesday. Remember, it was marred with a lot of electoral irregularities, and he had gone to court to challenge that, and the court ordered for a recount on Saturday, but come on Monday, yesterday on Monday, the court also ate back its words and said, you know what, the elections were held free, fair, and I hope, well, there's a possibility that there was an upper hand in regards to the government interfering, getting its way into the courts, as is always the case in Africa. But hey, maybe the court had seen something that, did not warrant that. So that is yet to be seen. But he said he'll still continue to go and challenge that. So I'll just take a very short break because Dr. Matsanga is about to join me, and when he does, we're going to look at President Uhuru Kenyatta's perspective in Kenya's politics. And then in Diaspora Dispatches is their constructive opposition in Africa, democracy, and of course President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. Now, is there a constructive opposition in Africa and democracy? I want to hear from you, even as we wait to have this very interesting conversation in a short while. Please let me know your thoughts. Do we have an opposition in Africa, and do they understand their status when it comes to the politics in Africa? And do the citizens in the different African countries really even understand the role the opposition should be playing in terms of even making sure that service delivery, and they hold the government into account? You tell me what you think. Paul Nyang, thank you. You're watching from Australia. Aluel Manyon, thank you so much. You're watching from Australia as well. And it is a very good evening to you. And thank you so much for taking your time for tuning in today. Zachariah Magok, you're watching from Magoba. You're with Magoba. Who is Magoba? Wanjiru Mwangi saying a beautiful show. All right, thank you so much. So let me just take a break, and then Dr. Matsanga will join me and we can proceed with the rest of the show. Please do not go too far because Good Morning Africa will be right back.
We discuss Africa. We see what ails Africa. And today, this afternoon, we want to see whether Sudan will permanently remain a sick child of Africa. Is it a permanent sickness? Can we resolve the issues of Southern Sudan? Is it something that has gone wrong for 200 years? There has always been a problem in Southern Sudan, in that great region, starting from all the way the Alimadi Wars and the rest of all what happened until today. Peace seems to be elusive. Why has UN taken slow action? Why hasn't UN set up a tribunal? We want to see a tribunal that will make sure that Southern Sudan people are accountable. Those who committed crimes against the human beings. 20,000 Sudanese perished. They are perished. They are not accountable. Nobody can account for them. And we cannot sit here, go on hammering peace agreements. without mechanisms of accountability. If we set a tribunal for Sierra Leone, for Rwanda, for Camera Rouge, we need somebody to stand up for the poor masses, the masses that have died, the masses that continue to die, the masses that are being brutalized, murdered, maimed on a daily basis by marauding armies of both Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. There must be an accountability. You are not going to sit here and tell people there is no accountability in Southern Sudan. There must be a tribunal. Why do we run to harass countries of Kenya, put ICC on Kenya, put ICC on this country, put ICC on Central African Republic? Why have we delayed on putting a tribunal for Southern Sudan to find out who is killing, who has been killing, how they have been killing people? Let me speak for the people in Southern Sudan, the women, the children who have not gone to school, the children who have no medicine, the children who have nothing, who have been running since 2013, and the war cannot end because of two people. Let them face the tribunal. I'm not going to keep quiet as a Pan-African to see Southern Sudan being maimed, being tortured, being cut, dismembered, and we keep quiet and watch people vote images of people, of malcontents singing to us in Uganda, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, telling us they have money. Let them face the international tribunal and tell the tribunal who gave them the guns, where they buying them, how they were killing people. Enough of is enough. Enough is enough for Africa. We have had enough. There is no need of that anymore. Enough is enough. And if people have died, they will not cry. We people who are left on planet Earth must cry for them. We must find justice for them. We must make sure that there are leaders who go on bragging on television stations all over the world, who are accountable. They must be behind bars.
Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are. I've lost my voice, but I'll try to speak so that we get the message across to Africa. This is Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. This morning, wherever you are in Berlin, on our satellite, elsewhere in the world, in the United States of America, in China, Russia, Europe, South Africa, North Africa, whether you are in Tripoli, whether you are in Rabat, Morocco, each place you have our services. You can just open up and see what we have. Today, we will have a special guest in the studio. She's one of the few, investors, financial consultants, one of the few consultants who can give us advice about the legacy, the big four, the small traders, how the small traders can be helped. You know very well, President Uhuru Kenyatta recently waived the tax or the type of, containers that had been actually loaded and confiscated, or let's say they had been, locked up in the warehouses of the customs. President Kenyatta went down to the port, the dry port, and directed that the containers must be released after verification and the paying of the taxes. This actually came as a result of a long battle between the government, the traders, and it had a lot of impact on the farmers, on the traders, on the ordinary citizens of Kenya. My guest today will endeavor to tell us what was the gain. Is there any hope that these things will be smooth without any hitches, long-term solutions? Why do we have farmers, traders coming, bringing their goods from China, ending up their goods being detained by the customs for over 2-3 months? Yet some of these traders borrow money from the banks. Some of these traders go to get loans, and the loans that they get from even high rates. Some of the main money lenders in town are not very easy. If you don't pay them 1 week, they come and blow down your house, your door. So most of the traders down in town were not actually very happy with their goods being detained by the customs. So, Madam, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us, you've worked in institutions, Price Waterhouse, you have worked everywhere. What is the general trend, Madam Wanjiru?
Thank you very much.
Do I call you Wanjiru? Because I was about to call you some other name. Wanjiru?
Oh yeah, Wanjiru is fine, or Ruth?
Ruth Wanjiru.
Yes.
Ruth Wanjiru is a senior consultant in financing, in businesses. You will see her most of the time here trying to tell you the packages of reviewing your businesses. What you want to set up a business in Africa, what do you want to do, what is supposed to be done. You need, like some of us, need human resourcing. Yeah. Can she do it for us? Are we making any value from the current people that we have? Those are serious questions that we want to answer. And we want Wanjiru to help us to answer and tell us in the future. But for now, the headlines in Kenya, it is war at Kenya Revenue Authority as people battle cartels, and the new chairman of the board is being selected. Then this one is political, which you don't want to touch. Yeah. Moise Keane dished out ADC land to cronies. That is something that is coming up. I don't know why this newspaper is concentrating on the Moi family. Mm-hmm. I hope it is not being Machiavellian. Mm-hmm. and then quizzed over Israel's farm. This is something of corruption which you can touch on.
Yes.
So let's begin with the smaller traders and the legacy. This is all we want. What is the legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta? Why is it that are we able to deliver some things out of the legacy? Over to you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. And thank you for this opportunity. I'm here basically for the small traders, SMEs and startups in this country. I think, and as we know, whether people have full-time jobs or whether they're in business full-time, people are trying to have those side hustles and startups that they can start up so that to grow over time. And as we know, Kenyan citizens are very law-abiding citizens. They are people who abide to what they are being told, to law. They want to comply with law and order. They really want to comply with the processes that have been put out there by the government, and they want to even abide in the law in terms of paying taxes. So whatever they ask for the government is the support in terms of following the rules and the laid down procedures that have been put forward for them to be able to grow and support the economy. But what happens now with the current happening right now with the small trader is they are at that point of, is the government supporting us in terms of business? And as you're saying earlier, in terms of we saw our president visiting the inland container depot recently, and he went there because of us, the small scale traders, because they're being harassed. They felt that they're being harassed. And they are the majority in the economy. Being the majority in the economy, that means if they are halted or if they are not operating very well or optimally, that means even the economy is very slow. And at this point in time, especially when we look at the debt in Kenya, we cannot afford to go at any deeper. We cannot afford to go to a recession. We need to support the small economic stuff that Kenyans are doing for it to spur economic growth, yes, and to ensure that money is circulating in the economy.
Thank you very much. Money circulating in the economy. Do you feel it? How are the ordinary people? We are now touching also the legacy. What is it that is making the president, people come up in a state? We had a chat with you over our chat room on 2 days ago, and you brought up very serious points, cardinal points.
Yeah.
Can you actually talk about them? Because today we see the legacy of the president. Yeah. Someone or some people tend to have put their waxed it to look as if there is nothing that is coming out of this legacy.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
I think the president, to be honest, he's tried and he's done his level best. And actually, you can tell that he has the interest of common mwananchi at heart. But in terms of legacy, there's no way. A legacy is not one person thing. The president cannot be able to work alone. He has his own mechanism that support his working. And we have to be able to see at least the mechanism is moving and it's working towards what is being expected. But we see in terms, as we were discussing on the chat the other day, we can see there's somewhere, there are areas, the oil is not there. The lubrication in terms of how the process should run well and fast. Why should the president go to the inland container depot himself? Because there's some oil that is not moving as well than it should be. And that is the main issue that we see. The president has everything, has put everything mechanism, but in terms of daily service delivery, I think the people below him and the people below those, and there's a bit of, there is a gap, there's a proper gap, but I think the best thing is that at least we can see him being a leader. He's coming down to the level of common mwananchi. And if you can remember, my rating in that chart was 8. Meaning that at least that was an effort enough for him coming down to common mwananchi, meaning I'm coming here because you people have entrusted you with this are not doing what is expected. And me coming is sending such a strong message. He's really actually sending a strong message that I'm here. I'm here because you guys are not doing whatever you're doing. And before you even go to that, we saw even and maybe because in the container depot, we cannot separate it from KRA maybe. Meaning that the KRA has been on the spotlight for the last, I think, 1 month since we saw the court session that were happening even with their staff and things like that. Meaning there is a gap and we can already see there is something that motivates maybe the people who work there, I don't know, but what we are saying that the people there needs to go to optimal level of operation to support Kenyans.
Optimal level of operation.
Yeah.
The legacy of the President of Republic of Kenya is at stake.
Yeah.
We have 39 months left. We have to deliver 4 pillars of Agenda 4. Housing, food security, manufacturing, and above all, health care. Of the 4, what do you think the President should pick up and go along and leave the rest to anybody coming in power in 2022? Like Kibaki left some things and said they will be done. What do you think of the 4 that the President should stick? Because we have another one added. Another problem that the President has is corruption. Corruption is eaten into the fabric of the President's tenure of office. Almost all parastatals are rotten. We are helping the President now. It is not. You have said it. The oil is somewhere is not oiled. Some oil has not worked there. Why should the President go to the container? Yet there are people who should have gone. Where are the ministers?
Exactly.
Where's the SCS? The CS is supposed to oversee departments, parastatals working. What has gone wrong? But among the 4, what do you think the President should pick in order to hold a legacy?
Thank you very much. From my perspective and personal opinion is that the President food security should be the first, I think should be his key agenda, because I think we shouldn't be seeing what we are seeing even in areas like Turkana, that people are lacking food. I think this nation already has its resources enough for its people. And I think he should ensure that those areas that are productive are able to overproduce enough for the people even who are in those areas that are not productive. And I know that when we say to areas that are productive, we touch even to the issues in terms of devolution, because there's already devolution in place. And some of these things, I think there should be cascade in terms of how service level or information or empowerment moves from the national government down to the county government and vice versa, so that there's communication, enough communication, so that no Kenyan should die of hunger in this nation. So that is, I think that he should put that as one of his priority. And the second other most important thing or pillar that he should also look into is health. I think we shouldn't be seeing what we are seeing even in hospitals and
like
county.
Yes, like where the governor is so beautiful outside with skirts and dresses, but when they showed the hospital in Kirinyaga, I think my heart changed.
It's sad.
Is this the governor that I always see in Lord Arrow, seated having a drink? While the hospital where you preside and the health is one of the pillars of the devolution, which was taken back as one of the functions. A governor sitting, drinking, and making speeches, eloquent speeches in the Senate, while there is a hospital of that nature. Surely, I think it took, I was very, you can't blame, can you blame Uhuru for this?
We can't.
The money has been given to the developed units. The quarrels in Kirinyaga between Waiguru and the woman rep have killed the legacy of health in Kirinyaga.
Exactly.
The quarrels that used to be in Machakos are no longer there. And you can see Mutua has killed the quarrels and is one of the best governors performing in terms of health. If the hospital is not clean, close it. If the hospital makes 2 mistakes, close it. You don't need the president to leave and go to the dry pot in order to sort out a problem. And that is why we want you on this show every day from next week. If you have time, arrange your timetable. You must come and bring us that financial aspect.
Yeah.
Because the president needs to see the financial implications, the debt, the huge debt. Yesterday we had something say Kenya is broke. Kenya hasn't reached the stage of Greece.
Yeah, no.
No. Our indicators are still very good.
Yeah.
We can pull out if we kill corruption.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The president has done his best.
Yes.
He's put the institutions.
Yes.
Is it the bad law?
Exactly.
Is it the bad law?
I think...
Is the law... Do we have a good law?
We do. We do.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are... It is you there. You have a good law.
And
are the laws good in Kenya?
They are.
To imprison people?
You know?
There are some people saying the president should do something very drastic.
Yes.
What did you expect out of the president when he was at the State of the Nation? I think as a trader who was one of those consultants who was glued on TV, you expected the president to say, drop the bombshell.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
and from that day,
yes,
people seem to have got very upset with the president.
Yes, they are.
That he did not drop the bombshell. Now, he might be watching, or he might be in meetings, but his people are watching. What do you want to tell them? What do you want to tell the president exactly? Where is the problem? He is the chief of all chiefs.
Yeah.
The buck stops at his office. The oil lubricated must lubricate after his office.
Yeah.
You have got one good thing you said today.
Yeah.
The oil has not lubricated to where those containers were. It means there was Kasoro there. That's why the president went. What do you want to tell the president?
I think I want to tell the president today, and I'm honored to tell him today that he is doing the right job. But I think in terms of people and processes that are there to ensure that they service delivery, I think that needs to be rechecked. And in terms of communication, is there proper communication strategies in different areas, and especially in areas and ministry that integrate? You know, how can we be able to, we don't have to really have, there has to be integration between ministries and even counties so that things can be able to work. From a national government, Ministry of Health, how does it cascade down, like for example in the issue of hospital that we are talking about that was really pathetic. And for example, if for example other leaders are not performing, can that be blamed on the president? Yes. The president cannot be taking bullets for everyone, even where people have deliberately absconded their jobs and duty. The people who have done that should be already taken into account, and they should be, you know, they should be viewed and reviewed, and maybe their performance reviewed separately. Yeah, and maybe from a government perspective, he should take his stand in terms of how such people should be treated, because the legacy of any leader is his people. The legacy of Kirinyaga, the legacy of the Kirinyaga people, of leaders, is with the Kirinyaga people, is with the leaders.
Yes.
If I can't go to hospital in Kirinyaga, I have to go to another county, then what are you representing me as a leader?
Surely.
Should the president also be blamed for such things?
No, but I think the money, surely, when I saw Governor Uhuru yesterday in the Senate, or the other day, she started the same game. She was in that ministry, and that ministry had IFMIS. She's the one who created IFMIS. For her to come to the Senate to tell us that there's something wrong in IFMIS, then she knows.
Yes.
And she did not give solutions. She only lumped the entire thing that the ministry explained. And you remember the situation of NYS 1, where Madam Kabura had 62 million going away with it. People were complaining about IFMIS. And Madam Uhuru came back and said she has stepped aside. Can the president take it from there again? We go back.
You know what happens?
And take on some people.
Yes. Actually, any system is as good as its people. And that is when they normally say garbage in, garbage out. Because if maize is being fed with garbage, then the output will only be garbage. So as systems work, we know systems work, they have worked everywhere in the world. But if systems are manipulated and they are not fed with the right information, then, or their weaknesses are being exploited, then you can expect anything that we see. It's not the problem of the government. The system was if it was properly tested by the time it came on board, and it has the capability to produce everything and every information for this nation. But people don't want it.
Yes.
And that's the problem. Systems work.
I think someone doesn't want this infamous.
Yeah.
He wants to make it mess, then they go back to the traditional theft.
Exactly.
The traditional line of theft.
Yeah.
Where the chief accountant will say, yangu itakuwa ngapi? I think you've made the cardinal points this morning. Now, let's narrow down to your smaller traders.
Yes.
The Nyamakima, is it?
The Nyamakima people, yes.
People.
Yeah.
The River Road.
Yes.
The things that are coming, that the president is saying things will work out.
Yeah.
Will they work out?
I think if he's given that hope, I have all the belief that things will work out. But let me tell you, Daktari, the things in Nyamakima and the small traders is that the government cannot continue pressing them as hard as they already are. They are already down fast. In terms of capital, you already know that right now most banks will not lend to individuals, especially after the interest rate capping and all the regulations that have come through the Central Bank of Kenya. So most of the banks are not lending to individual traders and small scale traders. They look at that as high risk work. So most of the institutions are lending to the government because that's where they think that the return. That's where actually not they think that's where the returns are. So you can imagine the small traders are already constrained in the small capital that they have, and even with the loans that they already have been given by the banks are very harsh to the small traders. So if, for example, in a case that we are discussing of internal container depot, for example, our traders' goods are held there for 3 or 4 months, you can imagine in terms of damages, there's a lot of cost, and also in terms of taxes. There should be a process in terms of the way that even the KRA should be able to understand. You shouldn't, I don't know if you've ever been there, but once you're there, sometimes you can tell there's no business sense. There's no one who understands the small trader.
The taxation is 25%.
Yeah.
And what they do is they give, instead of 25%, by the time you wake up, it is 35%.
Actually, what happened is classifications. What happens, tariffs are all charged as per classifications. And today, even if you're bringing something very, very different, but they think that they need to classify your goods as, for example, if you're bringing in metal sheets or say steel, why should you, what about those people who are bringing furniture that have a bit of steel? Should they be charged the same tariffs with the people who are bringing, even if there are those dynamics in terms of classification? I think they should be able to learn, to be able to understand, to learn the businesses of these small traders and be able to give proper solutions, because, and understand where they are coming from. But you shouldn't just decide that, I've decided today that your classifications of good is this one, and without having an understanding and without wanting to be challenged. That becomes difficult because, Daktari, even selling those goods become very, very difficult. Who are you going to sell to? Because you're going to sell at losses, then you cannot even be able to bring another consignment. You go home.
Okay.
Once you go home,
that's it.
That's it. I think
Sherlock will be on your door.
Will be on your door. Then they sell the little that you have.
Yes.
And what happens is, I think the government should give hope to the small trade, and especially Kenyans. If they have brought good, they should have that duty, even the duty of care in terms of traders. They shouldn't be so harsh, and they shouldn't, like, the government shouldn't be suspecting small traders. Why should you suspect me as, for example, as a government, as your child? If I'm a small trader, I'm your child. Why should you be working as if you're suspecting that I've brought counterfeit good or bad goods? Those who bring counterfeit, they be dealt as such. Those who bring good goods, then they be taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
They touch one small area again.
Yeah.
Counterfeit.
Yeah.
you deal with most, advise a lot of businessmen, businesswomen. This issue of counterfeit goods. Kenya has got what we call SGS.
Yeah.
That inspects goods before a pre-shipment inspection. You want to bring a car into Kenya, you have to do a pre-shipment, analyze the car, the age, and so on. Where do these counterfeit goods emerge from? And if so, why is the government paying for this SGS? Those guys who come to your door in London and see your car going to Nairobi, or those guys who go to the clearing agent in London and inspect your goods, why don't they cut off the goods while they are there, and then the goods arrive here only to find that the goods are counterfeit? Why? How can the government work on that?
Thank you very much. I think for any government, quality control is something that the government should deal with. Actually, it shouldn't be the work of a trader. For example, if you look close or keenly, most of the Nyamakima traders or those people in downtown, they are not so educated people. So whenever they bring in goods, they expect a level of support even from the other side. So it shouldn't be the work of that trader to do the work of SGS or quality control. The government itself should do the quality control work, and by the time goods are coming, then the trader is already secure. Because, for example, most traders go to, maybe, for example, if it's China, and they sample good of whatever they think there is a market in Kenya. For them, maybe depending on the specification and the specs of the goods that they are bringing, they might not be able to have all the knowledge, all-rounded knowledge. And businessmen actually they're not the most educated people. Yeah, but they need support. The government needs to support us. But now, the level of support, that is where the problem is, because the level of support, if the government has instituted an organization to be doing this, me as a trader, if I brought good and they have come to they have landed here and I'm being told they are fake, then where do I take solace, or where do I fall to?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Where does a trader who has already paid through his tax or her tax to SGS,
exactly,
where does he get or she get, where does she get solace?
Yes.
When the goods are here, then you say they are fake, while the man there SGS had to do a pre-shipment.
Exactly.
I think we have it very well on record.
Yes.
Any last word?
I think any last word for me.
And what message on the legacy? One, an encouragement to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Two, what can he do now to improve? Because we had debates all over yesterday. People are saying he should sack the judges. Are they the problem? Sack the ministers. Are they the problem? You know? Sack the entire, there is another word, declare corruption a national disaster. Then another one, make it criminalize ethnicity. Because when there is ethnicity, wherever there is corruption, ethnicity emerges. My man, our fifth, Awala Kunule, you must have read The Lion and the Jewel.
Yes.
Awala Kunule. In Africa, Awala Kunule is, whether he's a wizard, is Awala Kunule.
Yeah.
Whether he's a witch, making people have unnecessary diseases in the village, is our witch. So where do we draw the line among all these? With a legacy at almost 39 months to end.
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line?
Thank you very much. And as you're saying that, I just remembered a story that was just in the news recently about China. China was shooting down its leaders that were corrupt. I'm not saying that the president or any of us should go that route, but what I'm trying to say is that there can be a step taken if somebody is found to be corrupt, or if any system is found to be flawed even in the government institution, that at least investigation is done and action is taken. It doesn't have, even a small action is still action. At least action should be taken, especially from a corrupt perspective, because corruption seems to have cascaded down to us as a people, and we look at corruption as the next big game. If you don't win through corruption, then you cannot make it in life. And then also, I think the other thing, corruption also should be even taken a step further to be even a subject in even our education system, because it's one of the biggest monsters that we have. And regardless, it does not matter. We have seen even people that have been trusted and have fallen down to corruption. I don't want even to go to that route, but what I'm saying is that the president is still doing a very good job, and I need to encourage him to continue. And even the action, the action he took last week, that is a big step to tell us as Kenyans that he's still in control. And I think also the other thing, the president shouldn't be intimidated by what people say. People will always say, and whether you are kinsmen or people that are around you, yeah.
He has got the sword.
Yes.
We gave the president the sword.
Yes.
They are not two swords.
He shouldn't shy away or be brought down by what we are trying to say, or the things that are being said on the street. I think he should. It's good as a leader. I know he has the end from the beginning, and he has the capability that to turn this country around. But he has to turn it. We need to see him engaged a step at a time in all the ministry, and also his people, especially the CS, really accountable. As Kenyan, we cannot afford the kind of mediocrity that we see. We need people who are decisive, people who move for the purpose and for the final reason of having the people of this nation at heart. And that is what is the most important thing. The other thing, I think the other thing that I would say in terms from a business perspective and from a SME perspective, this nation has all the potential. I think, Mr. President, this nation has all the potential, and it's up to your support that we depend on, so that we can come up and grow you and support you. The kind of, I know there's a lot of borrowing going on, but if this economy is surfaced enough, it's able to produce and support the budget of this country as much as you can with very minimal borrowing. And Kenyan people are resilient people. They are willing to work hard every day. But I think what I can encourage you today, don't listen to the people on the street and what they say. Forget about them. Go ahead and do what you have purpose to support, and your legacy for this nation will live on.
Exactly. Use the sword.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And so many people agree with you.
Yeah.
Sue Anyoni said, the good point there, Madam, the president cannot take the bullet for everyone.
Yeah.
And then Charles Gakuya says, good points and very pragmatic. And then we have Ombesha Arthur, even at the point at the airport.
Yeah.
He has raised something very serious at the airport.
Yeah.
We who fly are advised not to carry brand new goods by the customs unless we have chai. Yeah?
Can you imagine? Chai is everywhere.
So this tea is tea everywhere.
Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you.
Thank you.
That is the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. We discuss it every morning, and we want now to switch on to come back to the normal another program, which of course we want to relieve you as you go to your other activities. But you will see her most of the time around on the issue of business, especially on business. If you have a business outside there, if you have anything, any troubles of any advice that you need in terms of business management, business enterprises, entrepreneurship, SMEs, these words are too many. I don't want to sound like His Excellency the President. I think we have some breaking news. Is there any breaking news that is coming from the court? I can see the DPP is addressing. Any breaking news from my production team? The ruling of the case between the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice, anything that has come up there? I don't know whether you have seen. There is something up there on televisions in Kenya about corruption. We can see people addressing a press conference. But to sum up our end, we want to thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Bring your package, your expertise. Talk to people. Many people in Berlin watching you. All over the whole world, 150 million people right now will repeat this show of yours. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Ruth.
Thank you.
Ruth
Thank you. Wanjiru.
Wanjiru. my Wanjiru.
Yes.
Yes, usually Kenya there is this thing Wanjiku.
Yes.
Everybody knows a Wanjiku.
Yes.
But I didn't know Wanjiru.
Wanjiru.
So today I've known Wanjiru.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Welcome to Punchline Africa TV.
Thank you.
Viewers, that brings us to a break. Let's take a break. When we come back, the German lady is on the steering together with me. She will be interrogating me on the issue. Do we really have opposition in Africa? Is there constructive opposition in Africa? Surely, everywhere, Malawi, look at what is going to happen in the streets in Malawi. Look at what is happening. They are saying no, they can't take it, lying. The man cheated their vote. In Zimbabwe, across, you have seen an audio doing rounds that the president is under house arrest from another team. These type of things that are coming up. In Uganda, across, you know what it is. Besigye is sleeping in in a cell. What is the problem? Do we have a good, positive opposition in Africa? Don't go away. When we come back, we shall tackle that, plus the people of Nigeria. Tomorrow is Biafra. 52 years ago, a war broke out in the southeastern part of Nigeria between General Yakubu Gowon and General Ojukwu. The forces, why I'm so interested in Biafra is they all finished this peace agreement in my country called Uganda. Uganda hammered the peace agreement that brought about peace between General Yakubu Gowon and Colonel Ojukwu, who later on became good Nigerians, put Nigeria together. I remember very well, my father took me up there to see the signing ceremony, although I stayed and I lost my bag. Again, I have experience, that's why you see me talking about Biafra and Nigeria. Viewers, that is the subject coming next. Someone has said the big four can work, but corruption make it harder for the big four to function. Dr. Matanga and Ruth Wanjiru. Is that true? Yes. So thank you very much. Don't go away. Miriam is back on the stage with this whole thing of opposition. The Chamisas, the Bob Wines, the Owino, the Besiges. Who else is in Sudan? The younger men in Sudan who cannot write a policy. They now want something else. The generals are saying, no way, we sweep you out of Khartoum. My God, are we under regime change and under spell of regime change? Don't go away. Keep watching. God bless you. Viewers, as you know, we have been at the forefront in the fight against the judiciary. We have stated time and time again that the judiciary in Kenya is the source of the weaknesses that we see that cannot fight the vice of corruption. Millions and millions of Kenyan shillings, billions, have been stolen, and those people have walked scot-free, leaving the courts smiling the following day. It is time, therefore, for President Uhuru Kenyatta to take a further step to bite. We have talked quite a lot. We need to bite. His Excellency needs to bite. He needs to take a step further to bite, to bring about changes in the judiciary. The Kenyan judiciary is an embarrassment to the institutions, to the arms of governance. The type of errors that are made in the judiciary cannot encourage any ordinary whistleblower like some of us who have stayed course in defending, upholding the principles of the Jubilee government. It is therefore worrying that time year in, year out, we have spoken about judiciary, the corruption, from the time of elections, from it being captured by external forces of George Soros, NGOs, and other institutions that want to dismember this country from every part of governance. Few months ago, a delegation of people went to Italy. They were encouraged to have quite a lot of companies coming to this country to invest. Little known to everybody in Kenya was that these companies were coming to invest, but companies that were investing in this country, coming as investors, were bankrupt companies that had already been declared person and a grantor in terms of economics of those countries. Someone resurrected the pipeline and the lifeline of eating billions of shillings out of a scam, purportedly going to make water, bring water to some arid areas of this country. Every time we talk about corruption, every suspect taken to Muthaiga on Kamata Day like this one mentions someone above. The people of Kenya have been wondering, who is this above? Can the DCI and other institutions tell us who is this above, who has mastered the art of eating everything and everybody, including vomiting on his shoes or her shoes? Is this person omnipotent? Is he God? People will be very happy, Your Excellency, if you did the Israel tactic of bombing the enemy and ending the war in 5 minutes. There comes a time when you take a step to release the fatigue and evaluate whether you are doing very well or you are doing very badly. Thank you very much, viewers. God bless you. Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. Viewers, wherever we were, we have been advised to speak at a low tone. And I hope you are hearing me. I'm used to speaking at a high tone, which has caused me the vocal disconnection and the troop movement of my throat. So I've been advised by Dr. Miriam Ogutu to go slow so that my tool of trade does not disappear. And I like her advice. I don't know what I can do, but here I am. Thank you very much, viewers. The topic before us is a very important topic. Do we have credible opposition in Africa, constructive? Miriam, since I don't want to do much of talking, I think it is very important to make our points as they are. Opposition parties and their opposition in national assemblies or central component of any strategy of democratization through elections. If there is bad politics, if there is bad, parties, there will be bad elections. If there is no democracy, if you have issued papers, documents to people, certificates, definitely you will not have any good outcome at the end. You saw Jubilee had to cancel all the certificates originally because they issued them like
the previous election.
Scones and this. ODM equally the same. Most people decided to go to other parties. But there is the third wave of democratization in Africa that has resulted only in a limited increase of political competition. What is that third wave when you meant what it was?
Here's the thing. The third wave of democratization in Africa has brought in a lot of competition. So we see that there's also the tragedy, the third term tragedy, where because most of in Africa, most of the democracies, it's a winners take it all sort of elections that we have in most of African countries. So you realize that it's normally a do or don't. So when the people that win and forms the government, the opposition, normally the term that the government will be in power, what they will be doing is fighting this government, and so they lose their essence and they lose their status, and they get confused on what they're supposed to be doing now as the opposition of a country, which is a very pivotal role that a lot of opposition parties in Africa have not really understood. And also even the citizenry in Africa themselves, I don't think they understand that the opposition also has a role in playing in how their well-being is being taken care of. The opposition has a mandate and a role to play in terms of the development of the country, in terms of making sure that checks and balances, because mostly that is what it does towards the government. But not only opposing, because that is what we see in Africa, really. The opposition is just there to oppose. And they will oppose, but not give alternatives, not give options. They will just say the government is doing this wrong, criticize, and at the end of the day, they don't come with other alternative solutions or options that they would prefer for the government to take on. And we see also there are things that could contribute to this, and it's normally a very acrimonious situation between the government and the opposition. So it appears as though the opposition in Africa really still struggles with its position and to understand the vital role it plays in terms of understanding that it is important for it to also join together and see that the country, wherever they are coming from, also develops, and it has a role to play in the development of the different countries we have in Africa and indeed across the world.
Thank you very much. And when you talk of performance, do they perform or they cry foul? Because it looks like they cry foul.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there any constructive program that if the government today falls, can the opposition take over and show us the other side, which they used to say is not working?
So I think most problems and the crying of foul mostly comes from our electoral processes that normally are usually perceived to be leaning towards one direction. And we've questioned this, especially after South Africa just had its very successful elections and people moved on because of their electoral process is much different from what we have in a lot of African countries. And so we wonder, why is it we don't see Malemba in the streets, we don't see the DA party in the streets opposing the results, or opposing this, or acrimony being formed after
even
a
breaking
post-election.
windows,
Nothing
killing
happened. People voted and actually went back to
cutting
work.
people.
We don't see that. So normally it is the electoral process, I think, and that in the different countries that has been marred with a lot of mistrust from the opposition or from the other leaders or people who perceive it to be leaning towards the other side. So the root cause is normally our electoral processes, which we don't trust them at all. So if you lose, then the other person had to do with your loss, so you don't lose. We are sour losers anyway. We don't know how to lose fairly. So.
There is no loser in Africa. All of them win. They want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never seen anybody in Africa who says, who goes to an election prepared to lose.
Yes.
That if he loses, then he will accept the results. But I can see most of them, when they are cheering Manchester versus Liverpool, some of them accept that at the end of the day it was football. When can we have that spirit of at the end of the day it was a game? When?
I don't know. Like we normally say, and I think I've said this before, we want democracy and we cry for democracy, and we see even a lot of opposition parties in these different African countries. That's what they want. The opposition in Uganda, they're saying Uganda, there's no democracy. In Kenya here, you'll hear them calls for democracy. And in different countries in Africa, democracy is a word that, normally is used very, very cavalierly. And we've not fully embraced. We just want to take that which we think will serve us today and right now, but we've not fully embraced democracy in its totality. And so we grapple, do we want to be democratic or do we want to have other systems of government? So we struggle with that because we've not fully embraced democracy. And also there's also a very interesting research and the findings of it. I can't remember by which institute, but it was found that most of the opposition parties in Africa are established around also the personality of individuals, that is one, and also they lack internal democracy, and also they suffer from inter-party and intra-party conflicts and have severe shortage of finance and lack strong base and experience. This is a lot. So let's start with the personalities of individuals. We seem to be, now because you're Matsanga, not only you're my tribeman, but also I don't care what you stand for, but I'll support you just because maybe you're very popular and things like this. So we see here also in Kenya the personalities of individuals. How does this come to play when it comes to forming the oppositions or even the governments of Africa, and how we worship some individuals regardless of what they stand for?
Thank you very much. And we got fake news that go along with we got fake news. Are we still in darkness? We got fake news that go along with opposition. You saw in Malawi, before they could announce elections, someone had already announced those elections. Are we in the era of trying to get ourselves to rely on fake news? Look at the fake news circulating this morning that in Zimbabwe, the president of Zimbabwe you have seen that. It's
under house arrest.
A house arrest, which is a lie. The president of Zimbabwe is meeting in Magufuli.
Yes.
President of Tanzania is.
Today he's meeting with Magufuli.
Yes.
Because Magufuli yesterday met with Namibian president, and he's giving him Swahili teachers, and he wants Namibia to embrace Swahili.
Yes.
Yes.
But Namibia is a Swahili-speaking country. They grew up in Tanzania and Kenya. That's why you see all Kenyans. In fact, I don't know why you don't even, I don't know why you don't even want to go
To where?
To Namibia.
I told you I do not want to go.
Yeah, you have not indicated to me. You only indicated to me to go to the capitals of Qatar.
That is for the World
German.
Cup. Well,
Namibia would be your first season holiday.
All right, I'll put that on my list. So I'll just be taking.
Because Kenyans are welcome in Namibia without any hesitation.
Yes.
No visa, nothing. You have Swahili speakers there.
Yes.
They grew up here. That's why you see President Uhuru has been going to Namibia. He has got links. Kenya and Namibia have got historical links. And that is very, very sure that is what is happening.
Yes, and also one of our viewers here, what is his name? Let me see. Bismarck is saying, a lack of political maturity, poverty and ignorance and patriotism has been a major setback for the growth of our democracies. Thank you. And also somebody here, yes, Samuel Lay, you're saying no term limits is the cause of war in Africa, Dr. Matanga and Miriam, indeed. And Zhang Anthony Inze, you're saying opposition parties in Africa are only seeking to come to power and most of the time without an agenda and a plan. Like what you're seeing right now in Sudan, I don't think the Sudanese protesters had an agenda after ousting President Omar al-Bashir. I don't think they had anything else in mind after this guy leaves. Or maybe they didn't think Omar al-Bashir will actually leave power. But they seem not to have had an agenda after the president leaves. What next? So now they're held in a stalemate. And it has become acrimonious. And yesterday I was just reading the news where it seems as though the military council has its own secret undergoings. They want to go and form their own government, but these are allegations that have not been substantiated from the Sudan. So yes, it's interesting. And Emeka Ehirim, you're saying, good morning, my people. You are doing a great job for Africa. So Bismarck says political maturity. That is what we lack.
Yes.
That is why it's even difficult for us to concede.
We lack a political maturity. I told you earlier on this week that there are three categories of people. Idiots, tribalists, ethnicity. You see, when you see a man going back to telling you, why don't you return to Kenya? Because Kipchoge has run so well and he's not happy with Kipchoge. He said, Lakini, why don't these Kenyans go back? We tend to go to that group. Then we have the people who do nothing really. The lady who was here was telling us ourselves cannot be blaming the president all the time. I think she made a key point there that the president cannot swallow the bullet for everyone, because one bullet will finish him, then the others will be hitting a dead body. So why don't we do the things ourselves as citizens? Three categories we have not been able to be ourselves. The first group runs out is those are the petty bourgeois who have houses. The bourgeois group, they have houses, they have everything in London, they have what? They are gone. They leave the tribalists and ethnicity around cutting each other. Then the citizens are the ones cut. So we have that problem.
We have that
in Africa.
problem. Do you think that opposition understands its status and the role that it should be playing when it comes to its position in a country?
I don't think so. Most oppositions in Africa are not worth it. To be very sincere, they are not. I haven't seen one which is worth it, unless you tell me.
So in Kenya now, of course, after Raila Odinga, the leader of the Orange Democratic Party, shook hands with the government and now are part of the government. They're working with the government, not part of the government. We have to make that one clear. We do not want to ruffle feathers. There have been those allegations that now Raila wants to work as though he's in the government. No, he's just working with President Uhuru Kenyatta to see a better Kenya, and he's not part of the government. So after he joined and shook hand, it seems to be working now with the government. The opposition virtually seems to have died here in Kenya. What would you say to that?
I mean, we're moving towards the politics of consensus. Mm-hmm. The politics of consensus, where people have to say, I am, because I'm like this. Mm-hmm. That's the type of politics people are moving to. Mm-hmm. Why do you have elections when you are going to fight? Why don't we just sit down and agree to say this is our country? We have Boko Haram, let's fight Boko Haram. Why? Mm-hmm. Look, that's what has happened in Africa. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So, we have those problems, and those problems must be addressed.
Well, yeah, like while opposition parties for South Sudan and Rwanda and Burundi only exist in name, like say in Tanzania and Kenya, we see they're a bit active, but in some countries in Africa they're virtually not in existence. But regardless of the nature and quality of the electoral institutions, opposition parties have remained numerically weak and fragmented. Do you think the fragmentation of opposition in Africa is what really is killing the strength of opposition in Africa? They remain fragmented. Like you keep saying in Uganda, the reason why President Museveni keeps winning all these elections is because the opposition in Uganda have refused to come together. They have been unable to achieve the unity of purpose and come together and get somebody and let the other opposition figures rally behind this one figure. So the fragmentation, is that what is costing the strength of the opposition in Africa?
The strength of opposition in Africa lacks money. They don't have resources to organize their parties. Some of these parties are briefcase. You find a man with a party, it is in the briefcase, and between him and his wife and the children. He goes out to use the masses, category number 3, to earn a living for the category number 2 in the body, because in the head, the stomach, and the legs. So that's what it is. There you are.
Okay, and of course, there's some news I read in the morning. You were not here in the first part, and I wanted to really get your opinion in that. Now the United States has removed Eritrea from the list of countries that are deemed not to be cooperating fully with its counter-terror efforts. And of course, that was announced yesterday. So the countries still on that terrorist, countries that are supporting terror, Iran, North Korea, Syria, and Venezuela. So Eritrea apparently now is out of the list for the countries that are supporting terror groups.
Because they are giving...
Is that accurate from what we know?
No, they are giving clues to killing Al-Shabaab.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
But a lot of Al-Shabaab retreat and go back to Eritrea.
Exactly. But now they are going to be killed. That's the beginning of the end of the war.
So the Eritrean government
has don't you see
the counter?
Don't you see so many people taking positions? Don't you see Somalia taking a position? Don't you see Somalia shaking its level, trying to find a bearing?
A bearing, yes. Somalia is trying to find a bearing now.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Antagonizing Kenya. You see, one thing in Africa that happens that kills my morale is when you the fighter who did all the things, you end up the one laughed at. Kenya and Uganda have stood by Somalia. The United States of America comes in because it's respected. It is taking our shape with France. France and the US are taking the position. The contracts are going to be recruitively given to none other than those two countries. Kenya, Uganda might not have anything that they will get out of Somalia. Already we have now bad blood between us and Somalia. It will extend to Uganda tomorrow
it's very
or another day. So That's what Africa is.
Because right now, as Somalia seems to be getting to a place where it's going to stabilize, I think there's still some challenges, but it is better off now. And I think when these insurgents people keep fighting it and the soldiers are in there, Somalia soon will be a stable country, sort of. And there's a lot of opportunities. Being that it has been fighting all these years, there's opportunities for infrastructure growth, building industries. So these superpowers have already seen this. So they're trying to position themselves to come and take over and be part of gain in this.
Miriam, exactly. We are in a cul-de-sac. We have reached Africa. I told you, you saw that. I think by now you have read word by word what has happened in AU. I believe you took the copy and it took time.
I was not given, but I'll take it now.
Nobody took it. I can cry tears here.
I don't want to blame Steve.
Blame yourself, because you should be asking for the copy.
Yes.
That copy explains to you what is wrong with Africa.
From its leadership at the AU.
Yes. A leadership that watches General Haftar, who is now going against Egyptians, handing them over to Egypt. That is Africa. A leadership.
Can you imagine that? Let's just take a pause on that. One of Egypt's most wanted jihadists has arrived back in the country after being handed over by the Libyan military strongman Khalifa Haftar.
Ocalan.
To Egyptian government.
Abdallah Ocalan.
So what will Al-Sisi say for himself?
I'm coming. Abdallah Ocalan was handed over by Moi to the Turkish government. Airlifted from Nairobi, sold by Moi, he landed in Turkey. Kwisha. So Khalifa has traded and got the arms that Egypt is giving him to conquer and in return support at the AU. That's why the chairman is compromised. Read the report. Read the report of Dr. Matsanga. I've told you, there is no AU. AU is compromised on issues of like Libya. They can't tell me there is anything they can explain to me.
That is very out there.
They can't explain to me on the issues of Democratic Republic of Congo, where they sent a note saying that don't attend the ceremony of President Tshisekedi. Then when President Tshisekedi arrived in Addis Ababa, he became the third vice chairperson of AU, this rotational year. Tell me.
We're in trouble.
Very big trouble.
Haftar handing over to Egypt.
I tell you, tell me why presidents were summoned to Cairo to do what? To do what in Cairo? To listen to General Haftar crossing over the desert to go and kill. Why are they not talking about Buhari? Yesterday, Buhari was inaugurated as a president.
He's being inaugurated today.
Today.
And then tomorrow is the freedom.
Yeah, 29th. As we talk today, Buhari is taking the oath.
It's actually underway. Yesterday was Peter Mutharika's inauguration. You see the way the court made a turnaround. the Malawian court made a turnaround. But now Buhari is being inaugurated today.
Mr. Bismarck Kabura has a good point which Madam has got to read for me.
Okay. So Bismarck, you're saying, Dr. Matanga, really on a personal note, I admire your pattern of politics. This reminds me of your tribe's mate, late Wapa Kabulo, who served Museveni, who had clean records in his political journey until God took his life.
Exactly. I was mentored by the likes of Dr. Milton Obote. Wapa Kabulo was mentored by Dr. Milton Obote. Wapakabulo was a member of the Uganda People's Congress when East African Community was working. That's where he got his wife, Madame, the former ambassador. I was supposed to go and work with you. In fact, there were 3 Ugandans who took me, who first, after the bishop to become bishop, I lost that. They took me to agriculture college. I refused that. My uncles bargained over me until Wapakabulo and another gentleman called Wambalie and another gentleman called the late Nangwale, the honorable. Nangwale was the engineer of East African Community. They wanted me to work in Arusha. So I used to go for these small holidays. And here I am. I'm graduated. And then the late Wamalwa. Yes. Also loved me, liked me, enjoyed my discussion. I didn't quite small. By the way, takuletea kat picture.
Okay.
Because you have been challenging me too much. Yes, it's you.
What did I do?
You have.
I'm just waiting to finish here and go read the report. What else did I do?
You have challenged me. I'm going to show you the picture, how I looked, how handsome I was.
Okay. At this point is when I bring in the therapist.
So that is how. So Bura, you are not wrong.
Bura is right.
You are right. My politics is like that, pragmatic, straightforward, and I say it. Wapakabulo told President Museveni before he died, he said, don't try to change the constitution. Don't go for the sake. Don't try to change. Don't remove term limits. He was hated up to the end. He died in London in our hands. Some of us were very humorous. We collected some funds because the funds were not even available. The government withdrew some of the money which had gone with, it was going for a meeting. It's a very bad story. I don't want to tell it. I'm sorry. May God help and raise my soul, his soul in peace.
That story. And now France has come out and said all those countries that are being tortured by the Islamist militants in parts of Africa up there. France has come out to say that these West African states should stop relying on French military presence to tackle the Islamist militancy.
Have you seen? Do you know why?
Why is that?
They have achieved what they wanted.
Which was?
To spread it. They are now running to Somalia. I'm telling you, they are here. Mama, they are here. They have now come. They have spread. They have finished Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria. All those states.
Burkina Faso, Nigeria.
Burkina Faso, all of those are finished. They are here. Mama, they are here. They have now come here. And you will see here in this region very soon. Very soon. Me, I talk the truth. I'm not against any French national, but I'm against their foreign policy. Full stop. God help me and one day carry me. They are here. Have you seen? They have completed a mission there. Sindio wanawasema, we don't know.
The Sahel region, they're saying, you guys, you should stop relying on the French military and French help. You should fight these people by yourselves.
Hey. It is good when you see some of these things. Let me laugh even very nicely. What? They are here. They are back in East Africa. They are the one corroborating Kenya and Somalia. They are corroborating it. They want to have access to those guns, to that oil, the uranium, the water, the fish. The story of the Somalia clashes with us. I'm happy that President Salva Kiir is in Nairobi today. I think so. He has just arrived in Nairobi. I have seen pictures coming up showing President
Salva Kiir
with President Uhuru Kenyatta walking into the Habitat conference.
Yes, the UN Habitat.
Yeah, today.
So Somalia will not come because they said will not be attending any international meetings that will be happening in Nairobi. They don't want to be part.
You see, we have now healed them. They don't want us. That's the problem. Because France has come. Niliwaambia wengine, they never wanted to talk to me. They called me a loud mouth. And the one minister called me stupid. Now you tell me, how stupid am I? Have you seen what it is? They now don't want. The Somalis are now beginning to appear that they did. In fact, they can turn on us and they call for us to get out quickly. That's what they did to Ethiopians. Until they created Al-Shabaab themselves, the Union of Courts of Sharif Ahmed Sharif. I know everything. I was in Somalia when interviewing Sharif Ahmed Sharif with Lindsay of ITN. We flew from Wilson until landed there. I know these guys. When I warned you, the judge there of ICJ, there is no case Kenya is waiting there. Let's just prepare, either we annex the territory and stick in the water and our marines stay there. There's nothing we are negotiating here. There's nothing to negotiate here. You are negotiating with France. Usitishatishe Kenya.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much. Tomorrow, of course.
I've told you all the time, my sister. When you're a black man and you have gone to school to study books, study very few. Study very few. Because when you study a lot and come, people use those many books to belittle you. Have you seen it now? Have you seen a war between Uganda and Rwanda exploding any minute? Have you seen a war between Burundi and Rwanda any minute? Have you seen a war in Somalia being engaged by foreign agents, dark forces, igniting a war between Somalia and Kenya? Yet we have our troops, AMISOM and Uganda have troops. We shall be told we are kafirs. You are going to see. A country has earmarked. They left us to do the donkey work. They left our brothers to be killed. They have now come in and say, no, we shall offer you tickets. We shall offer you accommodation in The Hague to eat sausage, eggs. And a tea in the morning, then go and accuse Kenya across.
There's beef sausages, I'm sure they eat that.
You see, the point that Kenya has not done, which I must say it here again. Kenya doesn't have international lobby groups. They don't have. The people there want to be, you can't be a minister, be a lobbyist, be an activist, be a diplomat, be where? You have to leave some work for some activists. The way I went on that ICC case, nilikula kabisa nakula. I ate it. Every day I ate it. I ate that Ocampo. Nilimkula kabisa.
You finished him.
Until I finished him. Nilikula Kofi Annan until he got scared to step in Nairobi. A Horomite former Secretary General of Affairs, a small man from mountains of Elgon.
A small man?
Yes, small in terms of wealth.
Okay.
Not in terms of volume. Because I'm not small, I'm heavy banana.
President Salva Kiir right now is giving his speech at the UN Habitat Assembly here in Nairobi.
Let's cross over to UN Habitat. Salva Kiir has come. I don't know what he's telling us. If can you cross over to
He
Habitat,
decries
my
slow
production?
development and blames war and retrogression. Assembly focuses on innovation. So he's just giving his contribution. He's making his contribution at the UN Habitat Assembly here in Nairobi. And this is the first UN Habitat Assembly that is happening.
I think that one happened because they are there going now. You see?
That is the president heading there.
Of course, I know.
Okay.
I know the motorcycles.
You know the president's entourage. All right, so President Salva Kiir is just giving his contribution right now at the UN Habitat Assembly that is happening in Nairobi, and tomorrow in Good Morning Africa. Be sure that we'll let you know really what President Salva Kiir was saying in that meeting today. And of course, there's been fighting in South Sudan between fighters of the National Salvation Front, led by General Thomas Cirillo, has resumed in South Sudan's Yei River State. Cirillo has renewed another fight in that area, and they're fighting with the government, and it's not getting any better in South Sudan. So we will give you all the latest tomorrow as we continue to receive and when we have more information. Do we thank our viewers? Yes? Do you say our buys?
Yes, I think so.
All right, and then we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of Good Morning Africa.